This is a scene from the nation of Sri Lanka. This is their J6 moment when protesters stormed the presidential palace. And it's not just the Sri Lankan government that's collapsed. All over the world, we're seeing nothing less than the liberal world order crumbling right before our very eyes. We're going to take a look at the major actors around the globe who are crushing the liberal world order. We're going to see precisely how they're doing it, and stick me to the very end of this video when I'll reveal how even in the West, the days of the liberal order are clearly coming to an end. You are not going to want to miss this. Greetings, patriots all across the globe. Dr. Steve here with you. Great to be with you as always. I am your patron professor, helping to think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent times. So if you've already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe. But you know what else I want you to do? I want you to stick it to cancel culture, just like we do on this channel every single day. I want you to stick it to cancel culture by clicking on that link below and supporting our dear friend Mike Lindell and My Pillows. You know, Walmart stores have now canceled Mike's products from their shelves, and so our support for this amazing patron is now more important than ever. And Mike is showing that love right back to us with his lowest prices ever if you use my code Turley. So normally, a classic My Pillow costs $69.98. But you can now get it for $19.98 using my code Turley. And that applies to all their products in their catalog. So don't wait. Click on that link below. Get one for yourself. Get another for the patrons in your life. They'll love you for it. Let's support our dear friend, Mike Lindell, and let's get the best sleep of our lives. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. To set this up, for the last 5 years on this channel, this channel has been dedicated to a proposition, as the Gettysburg Address would say. And that proposition, simply stated, is this: a new conservative age is rising. Now, a lot of people have been very intrigued by that proposition as we're closing in on 1 million subscribers. I love each and every single one of you. Make sure to help us get there if you haven't already subscribed. But we certainly have generated a lot of buzz and discussion regarding that proposition over the years. And we've certainly gotten our share of skeptics, right? Perpetual conservative pessimists and defeatists and skeptics and the like. So, you know, no more than after the whole 2020 election insanity, when this channel was accused of pushing false hopium, as our detractors would call it. And yet here we are in the middle of 2022, and everywhere we look, the liberal globalist colossus, that crunchy conservative defeatist wallowing in the filth of their despair, maintained was impossible to defeat. That very liberal globalist colossus is quite literally crashing down all over the planet. And it's crashing down precisely because more and more populations are turning instead to nationalism, populism, traditionalism, tribalism, and yes, civilizationism. And in the process, they are decisively defeating this one-size-fits-all globalist babble. Now, it's important to note here that this new conservative age rising, which post-secular scholars have predicted for decades now, this new conservative age is fundamentally a neo-traditionalist age. It's an age marked increasingly by a return to nation, culture, custom, tradition, tribe, civilization. It is by no means a utopia. It is by no means made up only of good guys. It's its own unique world filled with its own unique complexities. A lot of people seem to think that a new conservative age rising is a world made up only of ultra-MAGA patriots triumphing in faith, family, and freedom all throughout the globe. But a second's reflection will reveal that that is emphatically not the case. Populations are certainly returning to nation, culture, custom, tradition, populism, civilizationism, you name it. But how they return looks and works itself out in ways as unique as the populations that are returning. So let's take a bit of a tour, shall we, on the international actors that are causing secular liberal globalism to shatter right before our very eyes. And of course, nowhere are we seeing that more explicitly than with the return of the Russian Orthodox world. Now, as I've argued now for the last several months, most people don't understand what's really happening in Russia and Ukraine. Okay, they're certainly not going to learn it from the likes of the New York Times or CNN or even Fox News for that matter, unless you're watching Tucker. What we have to understand when all is said and done is that Ukraine isn't about Ukraine. You've got to get that. Ukraine is not about Ukraine. Ukraine is the stage for a clash between two fundamentally opposed world orders. A dying, declining liberal globalist order that's on its last legs, represented by a U.S. president who doesn't know where or who he is half the time, and a new confident and bold post-globalist traditionalist and civilizationist order that sees itself as the future. What Russia's turned into over the last 10 years or so is what scholars are calling a civilization state. And in a nutshell, a civilization state is a political and economic system organized around a comprehensive culture that often encompasses a wide geographical sphere. And what's so interesting here is that with a civilization state, the ultimate purpose of the state and the economy is to protect and defend and perpetuate the religious culture of a particular population. So the culture of the population is paramount, and the politics and the economics of the population serve to further the religious culture. And as such, the civilization state is in point of fact the exact opposite or the inversion of liberal globalism. What makes what we call liberalism or liberal globalism so unique is that it's a world order that has virtually nothing to do with culture or civilization or religion or ethnicity. Instead, the liberal order is not so much a civilization as it is a system. It's a global system made up of what's called a rules-based order, which involves checks and balances in government, corporate-based capitalism, and the notion of woke human rights, which involves seeing humans as members of this system rather than being part of their own unique cultures, customs, and traditions. And this liberal order has been increasingly imposed on all the nations of the world. And the world, of course, increasingly sees liberalism as nothing more than a ruse, a Trojan horse, for a kind of modern Western imperialism. And so it is no coincidence that we're seeing more and more populations returning to their nation, their culture, their customs and traditions, most especially their religious traditions, as mechanisms of resistance against what they perceive to be the anti-cultural processes of globalization and its secular Western aristocracy that arrogates to itself the sole privilege of being the sole arbiters of how a globalist system is allowed to function. And so what Russia is in effect doing is creating its own parallel world, its own parallel economy, its own parallel currency, right? We've talked about this, its own parallel arts and entertainment, its own parallel, literally, internet structure and telecommunications, its own parallel arts and sports and travel, you name it. And as part of this parallel world, Russia's neighbors, Belarus, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and occupied territories of Ukraine, they're all thrown into the mix here. They're all satellites, as it were, of this new Russian world. Now, in an attempt to try to stop the decline of the liberal world order, Western nations, led by the dolts in D.C. and the bullies in Brussels, have imposed unprecedented sanctions on Russia, basically trying to economically starve and alienate the entire nation. But in doing so, these sanctions, however inadvertently, have only served to exacerbate a global food shortage and explode inflation throughout the world. We've got to remember that Russia is the number one exporter of food and fuel in the world today. And they prepared for these sanctions years in advance by redirecting their exports to China and India and away from Western nations. And so the liberal world order, governed by these Western powers, is increasingly seen by the majority of the world's populations as a failure. And they want nothing more to do with it as they starve and go cashless. And at the same time this is happening, Russia's being joined in this civilization state building project by none other than China. China, too, is building its own world, its own self-contained, self-sufficient world that's more rooted in Neo-Confucianism than it is in Marx. And it's joining together with Russia in an alliance between two grand civilizations, working together to undermine the current liberal globalist order. India, too, under the leadership of the BJP, the Hindu nationalist Bharatiya Janata Party. India is reawakening its ancient civilizational foundations and building its own civilization state, which is also linking up with Russia and China. So we're seeing a fascinating civilizational world rising up from the ashes of liberal globalism. But it's not just the Eastern world. The Western world, the very heart of the liberal world order, is also beginning to decisively turn away from that order. But before I do forget, make sure to click on that link below and enjoy our Christmas in July sale at our Turley Talks merch store. We've been winning so much of late that we want to celebrate those wins with a special 4th of July sale all throughout the month of July. So make sure to click on that link below. And for limited time, if you buy 2 shirts, you're going to get 1 shirt absolutely free. It's right. Get 2 for yourself and 1 for the patron in your life. They'll absolutely love it for you. Or get 1 for yourself and 2 for them. You know what I mean. Click on that link below or go to store.turleytalks.com. All right, gang, let's survey this a little bit. In the Netherlands, farmers are rising up all over the nation to push back against their liberal government's insane mandates demanding they cut 30% of their agricultural production. In France, Emmanuel Macron has just lost his parliamentary majority as part of a stunning surge for the National Rally Party. In the UK, Boris Johnson's administration has imploded. In Germany, their economy is experiencing unprecedented collapse. I mean, we could go on and on. Unrest in Italy and other parts of Europe. And of course, the utter pulverizing of the Joe Biden administration. The Western world is in collapse, and the liberal world around the entire globe is crumbling. It's happening right before our very eyes. And there's nothing the dolts in D.C. or the bullies in Brussels can do to stop it. A new conservative age is rising. Now, before you go, you'll definitely want to check out our latest video I just uploaded on Kamala Harris absolutely imploding in front of the cameras as more Democrats switch to the GOP than ever. You're going to absolutely love it. So make sure to click on that link, and I will see you over there. God bless.